It is time. Good evening, everybody. This is TomaHawk here on a night of chill, on a night of talking about my home state of California and how much politicians up in Sacramento keep trying to fuck it up for me while I live in this state. Hold on a second while I don't need to hear myself speak. I do not. So, while I got that going on, we shall as I rant about my state's bill protecting fraud. And other. Cool. All right, whatever. Not whatever, but tonight, I've got a couple things on the docket. There's going to be some reacts. I have some react slop videos going. I have some a react slop video, as well as a California bill I want to go over to this for this stream. Due to the fact that California Democrats don't seem too pleased that an independent journalist, Nick Shirley, looked into some fraud that was happening in California. You know, the daycare, the hospice fraud, similar to the daycare fraud in Minnesota, we had the hospice fraud here in California. That was discovered here in Southern California, places in San Diego and Los Angeles. And, discovering all of these places that seemingly take care of children and old people. Yet, when gone and confronted to where these patients are, and there are many of them all over the state, all over the city, even checked by the city and checked by the state, and were found to be non-existent. They don't exist. And when pressed, when asked about it, the residents at these abodes became defensive, became squirrely, and were like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop! Don't I'm going to call the police, and you can't investigate us." And it's like, bruh, if you were a legitimate business, you wouldn't mind somebody coming in and asking questions. Also, automatically, people getting squirrely at the sight of Nick Shirley, I didn't mean to do that, was already pretty fucking sus. But in his investigation, he came across many places of business that were just non-existent. But the people who owned these buildings, who were here in these buildings, they were driving shiny cars, similar to what he saw in Minnesota, similar to what everybody saw in Minnesota at the very beginning of the year, that led to all of the bullshit that happened in that state since then. He uncovers Somali fraud in Minnesota, and then we had Alex Preddy, Renee Good, Tim Walz no longer running for governorship again, and then getting blown the fuck out in front of Congress. Of course, nothing substantial happened. He didn't get impeached. He didn't get thrown in jail, or not even thrown in jail, but he didn't get tried for anything. None of his cabinet got tried for anything. Nothing of substance happened due to Nick Shirley's investigative reporting on the Minnesota stuff. Same thing with the California stuff. The governor did make fun of him though and call him a predator essentially on Twitter. That was funny. Funny as in completely out of line and totally not actually taking on the actual problems that were exposed through his efforts. I do so love the fact that whenever somebody tries to bring information to the people, there's a very large subsect of people that Gavin Newsom? Wow, I can spell. Gavin Newsom. Where is that tweet? Where is it? Wait a second. We'll get to the actual bill itself, but I wanted to legislature proposes bill me a bond to the wife of Attorney General. Well, okay, there is a all right, there's that. We'll get into that, but the whole thing is Nick Shirley goes out and does some independent journalism, independent investigation. Same thing that, something that Tyler Oliveira did. It's something that Tyler Oliveira, forget how his last name is. It's one of those two configurations of the letters. He goes to California to investigate the fraud that's happening in this state. And people don't like that. They really don't. So much so that there is now a California House bill on the docket that was voted in, at least in the assembly, to go to the House to get voted on in the state Senate and in the state legislature. That essentially says that businesses, legitimate businesses, maybe not legitimate, that's not the right wording, but businesses that have immigration services or they deal with immigration and whatnot, have the right to report threats on their property, threats upon them, by third party independent entities, whether they be businesses or individual persons. They're allowed to call the authorities on these people if any of their public information, mind you, public, is shared on social media, is shared on the internet. There was actually a there's going to be some crossouts and fixes within the bill itself, within the bill's language itself, that basically, they shortened the internet and social media to just the internet. Anywhere on the internet. It could be, on social media, it could be on a website, it could be on YouTube, Twitch. It doesn't matter where it is. If you can see it online, it is within the parameters of being reported on. This is public information, but because it's personal information, they're treating it like it's private info even though it's not. And it's essentially being colloquially called, at least by the Republican legislature of this state, one of the Republican legislatures, the legislators of the state, Carl DeMaio, as the quote-unquote Stop Nick Shirley Act. And I think that's apt, and that's an apt colloquial nickname for it, because what the hell is it? What the hell is it supposed to do here? What the hell is a bill like this supposed to do for the wider California people? What it's supposed to do? You know, it's throwing out fines for people that investigate public places physically, and it's truly something. I cannot believe the kind of shit that goes on in this state, in the state legislature. Man, it is hard to speak. There's state legislators and state legislature. I must enunciate better. Anyway, for tonight, for a lot of this stream, we're going to be going over the bill. Because holy fuck. I can't believe that they are basically, like, to put it simply for the layman's people in the back, this is a bill that is essentially going against the First Amendment. Like, straight up. They talk about, oh, First Amendment breaking this, and the federal government is going against the First Amendment, and it's all about the Constitution. All of that is bullshit here in California. It's bullshit. Because how can you propose a bill like this and think that you're not trying to silence independent journalism with it? There's a cognitive dissonance that isn't happening with the people up in Sacramento. And I can't believe that we live in times where a certain sect of people are so self-righteous in their cause that they just think that anything goes just because they're in power. They think it's all for the right reasons. Now, I'm not very used to this, but we're gonna go into the bill now, because this is something we just have to read together, man. We just have to read together. No kings, no this thing. This is where we are here in California. We are in some really dark times here in California, and we can't be saved unless there is, dare I say, an uprising of a proportion that truly and completely uproots this state, the madness in this state. Here it is. It's Bill AB 2624, Privacy for Immigration Support Services Providers. Never believe the headlines, people. Never believe the headlines. Because at this point, it's like, what are we even doing here? Privacy for Immigration Support Services. Nick Shirley only uncovered fraud. That's what it was. Mm. To be self-promotion. California is. Yeah. Might as well put that out there since I'm here. AB 2624, Privacy for Immigration Support Services Providers, session year 25-26. This went through the House Assembly, was voted on. Today is the 13th, so it was voted on 4 days ago. This is the latest version as of 4 days ago, April 9th. It was introduced, and it was recently voted on. 11 to 11, I think it was there were 15 people. 11 people passed it. 11 people voted on this. You can see the bill author and then the bill author, the bill co-authors. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 co-authors. And 11 of them passed it. The 2 people that were against, here can we see, Carl DeMail and Alexandra Mercado did not vote. Joe Patterson and Josh Hoover. I don't blame them for not voting because they're outnumbered. Completely outnumbered. Every single Democrat voted for this bill. Do pass as amended and be re-referred to the Committee on Judiciary. What the hell is this, man? All right. People of the state California do enact as follows. Section 1, commencing Section 1, Chapter 3.26, commencing with Section 6218.10, added to Division 7 of the Title 1 of the Government Code. Legislature declares as following. Persons providing support services to the immigrant community have been subject to harassment, threats, and intimidation for their work. Now, the language in this bill is supposed to be vague as hell. The immigrant community. Immigrant community, huh? Persons working in the organizations that provide immigration support services have faced doxing, courthouse targeting, online. What is this? Isn't a bill. This is a. What would you call? This is an article written in legislative form, put out as government ruling. Put out as government ruling, basically. For the purposes of this chapter, persons faced doxing, courthouse targeting, online harassment, anti-immigrant vigilante threats, and coordinated campaigns and death threats. Is this a Google Doc or a Is this a Google Doc or a bill? I can't tell at this point. These acts have risen to alarming levels in 2025 and will continue due to the current federal administration's anti-immigration attitude and policies. Wow. Anti-immigration. Notice how in just that beginning paragraph alone, it is completely vague, so vague in describing what kind of immigration, because the last I checked, the current federal administration's anti-immigration attitude and policies is really anti-illegal immigration policies. Now, granted, I think we've reached a point with our immigration system and our immigration policies to where we just need a complete moratorium at this point. To get back on track, we need a complete moratorium, and we just need to get rid of all of the illegal immigrants to begin with. All of the ICE raids that happened throughout 2025 were part of this. Were part of this, especially when they had that big crackdown. When ICE had that big crackdown in the farms in San Luis Obispo, not San Luis Obispo, but over there near Santa Barbara and stuff. You have all those farms that are now deserted because they had a bunch of illegal immigrants on them and they couldn't be here. For the purposes of, but continuing on, 18.11. For the purposes of this chapter, all the following definitions apply. All right, so here is where they are supposedly going to define what they mean by the terms they use in this bill. Address means a residential street address, school address, or work address of an individual as specified on the individual's application to be a program participant under this chapter. B. Designated immigration support services means services provided to the immigration population, including but not limited to legal representation, legal assistance, advocacy, case management, humanitarian relief, immigration resources, referrals, translation services, counseling services, and healthcare. A lot of these can mean anything. Case management, advocacy groups. What could that? Things like humanitarian relief could be the various hospice related cares, various like hospice related services, and case management, advocacy, translation, counseling, healthcare, immigration resources. It's essentially, a lot of these sort of say the same thing, but they're, I guess, different enough in category that they require a separate naming. But really, it's all in service of immigrants living here. Immigrants living here. They don't specify which kind of immigrants. They'll never do that. But it's immigrants that are immigrants living here. C, designated immigration support services provider, employee, or volunteer means a person who provides, assists in providing, or receives immigration support services at a designated immigration support services facility. That could be anything, such as the hospice situation that was recently gone over. And the fact that all of these supposed immigrants have really nice cars that are supposedly helping hundreds of thousands of immigrants within their esteemed place of work, place of business. D, designated immigration support services facility means a facility where immigration support services are provided, including but not limited to nonprofit organizations' offices, Department of Justice recognized entities, community legal clinics, law offices, accredited representative sites that provide immigration legal services, and healthcare facilities. So anything that the state has come through and checked off as legitimate. This is a place of business that exists. Basically, what Nick Shirley went over in his investigation, that basically had all of these businesses that popped up around the same area to say, this is a place that exists. But when you go there, it's actually not a place that exists. But in the records, it does. So because of those records, those are the records that this bill addresses. That this bill is basically saying, hey, we recognize you legally. E, domicile. D, immigration facility. Okay. E, domicile means place of habitation, as defined in section 349 of the Elections Code. I have not seen that, so I wouldn't know. Harassment is repeated, unreasonable, and unwelcome. Unwelcome conduct directed at a targeted individual that would cause a reasonable person to fear for their own safety or the safety of a household member. Hmm. Uh, uh, I don't know what you're doing here. What is your business here? I'm just here to ask some questions. I want to enroll Tommy in a in hospice. We don't. That's not what we do. Could you go somewhere else? We have a separate thing. But it says that your services are here in this facility at this address, and I just want to enroll Timmy into the hospice program that you have here. You need to leave. I fear for my safety. I'm going to call the cops. That's basically what that is. Reasonable person to fear. Those are the reasonable people that are being mentioned here, because that's the context behind this. Of course, all of this to me, all of this coming from me sounds like I would be accusing these places of being fraudulent, and frankly, you'd be right, because just from Nick Shirley's and I'm going to keep referencing Nick Shirley's investigation, because how can I not see it this way? Because if it's not Nick Shirley, it's Tyler Oliveira, who did something similar earlier in 2025 to other places. And then it's not just Nick Shirley putting it on the internet, but it's also the various investigators that he met up with to go to these places specifically. The lady that he was with, the man that was helping him go from house to house to place of business, motels and stuff like that. Essentially his tour guides that he went to that helped him on these journeys. All those other people are also liable to get hit by this if it were to go through. Repeated unwelcome conduct directed targeted individual that would cause a reasonable person to fear for their own safety or the safety of a household member. Harassing conduct may include, but is not limited to, following, stalking, telephone calls, or written correspondence. Hey, I have this. I want to enroll Timmy. Excuse me, can you answer questions about your place of business? And they shut the door, or they start running, or they start going in a different direction, or something like that. And you're just trying to ask about the business that is a business that apparently exists at the address that is publicly available through California's own list of businesses. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, okay. Image includes, but is not limited to, a photograph, video footage, sketch, or computer-generated image that provides a means to visually identify the person depicted. Okay. I mean, yeah. Personal information. I'm gonna love this. Personal information means information that identifies, relates to, describes, or is capable of being associated with a designated immigration support services provider. You mean shit that can be found in public? On public record? Employee or volunteer, including but not limited to their name, signature, social security number, physical characteristics or description, address, telephone number, passport number, driver's license or state identification card number, license plate number, employment history, and financial information. So basically, that's just definition. So that's nothing. Public entity means federal, state, or local government agency. Publicly post or publicly display means to intentionally communicate or otherwise make available to the general public. Okay, social media, they scratched that off, fine. The new K is work for a public entity, which means work for a public entity means for work performed by an employee or public entity. Work performed for a public entity by a person pursuant to a contract with public entity. And that's the end of the definitions in the bill. Now we get to the meat of the bill. After we've gone through all those definitions, which, for definitions is, I know I kind of crashed. I kind of went off on a lot of the definitions in this bill for what they had, for what they were naming. But definitions are definitions. Now we get to the actual language of the bill. The actual language. 6218.12. A. An adult person, a parent or guardian acting on behalf of a minor, or a guardian acting on behalf of an incapacitated person who is domiciled in California may apply to the Secretary of State to have an address designated by the Secretary of State to serve as the person's address or the address of the minor or incapacitated person. An application shall be completed in person. An application should be completed in person at a community-based assistance program designated by the Secretary of State. The application process shall include a requirement that the applicant shall meet with a counselor and receive orientation information about the program. Okay, fine. The Secretary of State shall approve an application if it is filed in the manner and on the form prescribed by the Secretary of State, and it contains all of the following. 1. If the applicant alleges that the basis for the application is that the applicant or the minor or incapacitated person on whose behalf the application is made is a designated immigration support services provider, employee, or volunteer who is fearful for their safety or the safety of their family because of their affiliation with a designated immigration support services facility, the application shall be accompanied by all of the following. Immigration services, eh? Capital A, subsection capital A. Documentation showing that the individual is to commence employment or is currently employed as a provider or employee at a designated immigration support services facility or is volunteering at a designated immigration support services facility. Documentation. Documentation, eh? B. One of the following. I. A certified statement signed by a person authorized by the designated immigration support services facility stating that the facility or any of its providers, employees, or volunteers is or was the target of threats, harassment, or acts of violence or harassment within 1 year of the date of the application. A person who willfully certifies as true any material matter pursuant to the section that the person knows to be false is guilty of a misdemeanor. How do they know what is a threat, what is harassment, or what is acts of violence? Those weren't defined. Those were not defined in the definitions portion of this bill. Now, maybe it's somewhere else in California legal land where they describe what threats, harassment, or acts of violence are, but they don't show it here, and it wasn't in the definitions portion of the bill. 2. Subsection 2. A certified statement signed by the provider or the employee of or volunteer for the designated immigration support services facility stating that they have been the target of threats, harassment, or acts of violence within 1 year of the date of the application because of their association with the designated immigration support services facility. A person who willfully certifies as true any material matter pursuant to the section that the person knows to be false is guilty of a misdemeanor. I think workplace violence, subsection 3, a workplace violence restraining order described in section 527.8 of the Code of Civil Procedure issued after a noticed hearing, or a civil restraining order described in section 527.6 of the Code of Civil Procedure, issued after a noticed hearing. Jeez, they really like to repeat words in legal legislation. Protecting the applicant or the minor or incapacitated person on whose behalf the application is made. The order must be based upon threats or acts of violence to the applicant or the minor or incapacitated person on whose behalf the application is made and connected with the designated immigration support services facility. Uh, documentation. So, okay. Certified statements, workplace violence restraining order, sworn statement, subsection C, a sworn statement that the applicant fears for their safety or the safety of their family or the safety of the minor or incapacitated person on whose behalf the application is made due to the affiliation with the designated immigration support services facility authorized to provide the declaration described in subparagraph B. A sworn statement or a certified statement. So a subsection that loops around a sworn statement. So it can either be a written statement certified by the Secretary of State, or it could just be, I swear on my life that this is the case. So it could either be on public record or off the record. Just by saying, trust me, bro. A sworn statement. A sworn statement, man. Come on. Come on. Two, if the applicant alleges, okay, that the basis for the application is that the applicant is a designated immigration support services facility volunteer, the application shall, in addition to the documents specified in paragraph 1, be accompanied by documentation by the designated immigration support services facility showing the length of time the volunteer has committed to working at the facility. Yeah, that is in response to Nick Shirley asking how long they've been there. I mean, I say Nick Shirley. I will admit that it may not actually be in response to Nick Shirley's investigation in California. That being said, it's really, and I mean really, convenient that really convenient that they introduced a bill like this so soon after Nick Shirley's visit to the state. And it seems very targeted because of what Nick uncovered in his investigation. And because it's got shit like alleges, applicant alleges, a sworn statement. Sworn statement can mean anything. A sworn statement is just, hey, trust me that we have a business here. Just, we say we have a business. We have a business here. I mean, look, we even have the sign. That's a sworn statement. Yeah, I'm workers of this facility. It says certification. It says a certified statement. But also in the bill, it's a sworn statement. A sworn statement that the applicant fears, and it's a sworn statement. It's basically sworn statement of that the applicant fears for their safety. And it's like, I feel uncomfortable that you're asking me all these questions about a business I don't know about, even though I'm supposedly working at the place of the business that is publicly available to look up. Subsection A, if the applicant alleges that the basis of the where was I? Immigration volunteer, the application shall, in addition to the documents specified in paragraph 1, be accompanied by a documentation designated immigration services facility showing the length of, 3. If the applicant alleges that the basis of the application is that the applicant or the minor or incapacitated person on whose behalf the application is made is a person who is or has been the target of threats or acts of violence because the applicant is obtaining or seeking to obtain services at a designated immigration support services facility within 1 year of the date of application, the application shall be accompanied by both of the following. Basis of the application is that the applicant or the minor or incapacitated person of whose behalf the application is made, which, again, it could mean anything, because you can claim that you're doing this for your child. You can claim that you're doing this for a family member that can't sign themselves. Admirable language, it really is, but there's nowhere so far. And we still have quite a bit of bill to go, but nowhere in this bill so far, and it really should have been specified what that meant, does it really distinguish minor or incapacitated person? Like, I mean, those are distinguishing terms, but it doesn't describe or define what those people are, what those are. And maybe that's just assumed what those terms are supposed to mean in this case. I mean, it's easy to say, minor, anybody under the age of 18, incapacitated person is, people who are injured, can't write, whatever. But there's not really a check to see whether or not someone like this, not really a check to verify. That's the word I'm looking for, to verify that these are actually, people. There's no verification process that I've seen yet. And the only verification process is a certified agreement by the Secretary of State of California or a sworn statement. That says sworn statement. A sworn statement that the applicant has good reason to fear for their safety or the safety of their family. Okay, fine. Any police, court, or other governmental agency records or files that show any complaints of the alleged threats or acts of violence. Okay. Subsection 4, a designation of the Secretary of State as agent for purposes of service or process and the purpose of receipt of mail. A service on the Secretary of State of any summons, writ, notice, demand, or process shall be made by delivering to the address confidentiality program personnel of the office of the Secretary of State 2 copies of the summons, writ, notice, demand, or process. Subsection B. If a summons, writ, notice, demand, or process is served on the Secretary of State, the Secretary of State shall immediately cause a copy to be forwarded to the program participant at the address shown on the records of the address confidentiality programs of the summons, writ, notice, demand, or process is received by the program participant within 3 days of the Secretary of State having received it. Put simply, if the Secretary of State receives any notice that somebody's coming in to investigate the facility, the Secretary of State is then obligated to send the facility a copy of documentation that the facility actually exists, basically. This is in answer to anybody that kind of pop quizzes any place of business for one of these immigration homes or one of these hospice homes, that the place actually exists. It's essentially the get out of jail free card for any time somebody comes up and asks, does this place actually exist? The California Secretary of State is basically obligated per this bill that to provide a paper, a statement, an official paper statement from the state of California saying that yes, actually this place exists, even though you're looking at the building and you're seeing emptiness. Even if there happens to be nobody at the location, you are still, even though it may look like there's nobody at the location, the Secretary of State says that people here exist, this business exists, therefore, we exist and you need to stop talking. I'm going to be a bit accusatory in this stream. I don't know if people can tell. Anyway. B. If a summons, writ, notice, demand, or process is served on the served on the Secretary of State, the Secretary of State shall immediately cause a copy to be forwarded to the... Oh my god. I feel like I'm just repeating myself. There's so much repetition in this bill, in these bills. Holy shit. Okay, anyway. Forwarded to the program participant at the address shown on the records of the address confidentiality program so that the summons, writ, notice, demand, or process is received by the program participant within 3 days of the Secretary of State having received it. Okay, I think I saw that already. C. Secretary of State shall keep record of all summonses, writs, notices, demands, and processes served upon the Secretary of State under this section, and shall record the time of that service and the Secretary of State's action. At least there will be a public record of it, basically. The office of the Secretary of State and any agent or person employed by the Secretary of State shall be held harmless from any liability in any action brought by any person injured or harmed as a result of the handling of first-class mail on behalf of the program participants. Okay, that's protecting the mail service that would deliver this. Mailing address where the applicant can be contacted by the Secretary of State, and the telephone number or numbers where the applicant can be called by the Secretary of State. That's subsection 5. Okay. 6. The address or addresses that the applicant requests not be disclosed for the reason that disclosure will increase the risk of threats or acts of violence or harassment toward the applicant. I request that you give me official notice that my place of business exists. But I don't want you to tell people that I asked you to do this, or else they will continue to flame me for asking for writs of notice from the Secretary of State. I don't want you to tell them that I asked you. The address or addresses requests not be disclosed for the reason that disclosure will increase the risk of threats or acts of violence or harassment toward the applicant. It's funny. It has a point, unfortunately. I get it because, the Secretary of State, names your address and it's like, what it is the address. They don't want, this is an official place of business, but my mailing address is somewhere else, or the office is somewhere else. I don't want you to know that, for fear that you actually go to that other place and you find out that the other place doesn't actually exist. Oh boy. 7. The signature of the applicant or any of the individual or representative of any office designated in writing who assisted in the preparation of the application, the date on which the applicant signed the application. 7B. Applications shall be filed with the office of the Secretary of State. Fine. C. Submitted application shall be accompanied by payment of a fee to be determined by the Secretary of State. This fee shall not exceed the reasonable cost of an... Okay, that's the fee one. In addition, annual fees may also be assessed by the Secretary of State to defray the reasonable costs of maintaining this program. Defray. To undertake payment of costs to pay. To pay or discharge. To avert or appease, as by paying off to satisfy. Okay. This fee shall not exceed the reasonable costs of enrolling in the program. In addition, annual fees may also be assessed by the Secretary of State to defray the reasonable costs of maintaining this program. Annual fees assessed by the Secretary of State shall also be used to reimburse the general fund for any amounts expended from that fund for the purposes of this chapter. General fund? They want to take from... That's where my taxes are going. That's the general fund. I'm about to pay taxes right the fuck now. Or soon, like tomorrow and shit. And this is basically saying that applications will have an annual fee and could be paid it could be paid off by my own tax dollars. Subsidized. Brother, stop using my tax money for shit like this. Stop using my tax money for fraud. Come the fuck on. D. The address confidentiality for Immigration Support Services Fund is hereby created in the general fund. Oh my god. Upon appropriation by the legislature, monies in the fund are available for the administration of the program established pursuant to this chapter. More state-sponsored programs. Lovely. Upon filing a properly completed application, the Secretary of State shall certify the applicant as a program participant. Applicants, with the exception of designated Immigration Support Services facilities volunteers, shall be certified for 4 years following the date of filing unless the certification is withdrawn or invalidated before that date. Designated Immigration Support Services facility on volunteers shall be certified until 6 months from the last date of volunteering with the facility. The Secretary of State shall by rule establish a renewal procedure. A minor program participant who reaches 18 years of age may renew as an adult following the renewal procedures established by the Secretary of State. Okay. So in this bill, they're going to be basically creating an application process that says the Secretary of State exclusively will write to your business to tell you that you actually exist and are a legitimate place of business to anybody that comes in and asks. And not to mention, but those people that are coming in to ask, they can't just quiz you. They can't just pop quiz you and be like, "Hey, I want to enroll in this. I want to enroll in this program, or I want to enroll someone in this program. Can you show me where to do that?" Or anybody that comes in and asks, "Hey, is this a legitimate business?" You be like, "Yeah, this is a legitimate business." It's like, I don't see any address to like forward anything or ask questions, or you guys got any like contact information? Oh, no, you don't need that. Secretary of State. So because this is the official document, that's all you need to know. That opens up this is all you need. Go away, or I will call the cops. You are performing a misdemeanor by continuing to ask me questions. That's basically what this is. And it's being subsidized by the California government. Oh, that's the worst. F. A person who falsely attests in an application that the disclosure of the applicant's address would endanger the applicant's safety or the safety of the applicant's family or the minor or incapacitated person on whose behalf the application is made. They've gotta say less. Please say less. Or who knowingly provides false or incorrect information upon making an application is guilty of a misdemeanor. Only a misdemeanor? For lying? A notice shall be printed in bold type and in a conspicuous location on the face of the application informing the applicant of the penalties under this subdivision. They're gonna put this shit in red. If you make a mistake or a lie on the application, they're just gonna be like, no, it's literally a teacher grading a paper saying this is incorrect. That's so funny. It's literally a teacher grading a paper, crossing out the wrong information, crossing out the wrong answer, and writing in, no. What are you doing? As a note in the paper. Wow. Adults as children, school children. That's the end of that subdivision. Basically saying, to summarize this entire subsection, basically says that California is going to create a separate program that utilizes tax dollars, taxpayer money, to fund and reimburse the fees it would take to essentially get all of these legitimate immigration service businesses and facilities certifications from the California Secretary of State that says, yes, this business exists. It could be a rundown building in the back of a motel or something, but it exists. The Secretary of State says so. Can I visit where your HQ is? No, we didn't want the Secretary of State to disclose that. So that will be off public record. But the fact that the business exists is all you need to know. And any snooping, no, and any investigation into the validity or to verify that it is what it says it is, all you need is the Secretary of State, if the little paper that says the Secretary of State hereby declares that this is a legitimate business. Stop fucking asking, or else I feel uncomfortable and I fear for my life. This is basically, if you fear that somebody is coming in to ask you questions and you feel uncomfortable, you can run to the Secretary of State and call, Mom, they're asking me questions. I don't feel safe. I fear for my life. Can I see who's in there? No. You are infringing on my property. You are infringing on my property and my right to exist, my right to be here. Go away. Next. Did I pass 13? No. Okay. No, 14. All right. 6218.14. A program participant may withdraw from program participation by submitting to the Secretary of State written notification of withdrawal and their current identification card. Certification shall be terminated on the date of receipt of this notification. Okay, there's your out. B, the Secretary of State may terminate a program participant's certification and invalidate the participant's authorization card for any of the following reasons. 1. Program participant's certification term has expired and the certification renewal has not been completed. 2. Secretary of State, Sec State, I'm going to say Sec State. That's wrong to say. Determined that false information was used in the application process to qualify as a program participant, or that participation in the program is being used as a subterfuge to avoid detection of illegal or criminal activity or apprehension by law enforcement. The Secretary of State has determined that So it's up to the Secretary of State to basically say, this doesn't look legitimate. No, not letting this go. That's a lot of veto power, the power of the Secretary of State. Program is being used as a subterfuge. It's up to the Secretary of State to basically catch all of the applications and make sure that they're all legitimate. It's up to the Secretary of State of California, in order to make sure that each and every single one of these applications is true and real. Wow. Okay. 3. The program participant no longer resides at the residential address provided to the Secretary of State and has not provided at least 7 days prior notice in writing or of a change in address. Okay. A service process document or mail forwarded to the program participant by the Secretary of State is returned as non-deliverable. 5. The program participant who is a provider, employee, or volunteer fails to disclose a change in employment or termination as volunteer or provider. 6. The program participant who reaches 18 years of age during their certification term has not renewed their certification within 60 days of them reaching 18 years of age. Alrighty then. Secretary of State may terminate a program. Okay, it's up to the Secretary of State to basically, under these 6 rules, under these 6 under these 6 reasons, any one of these 6 reasons is able to deny a program participant. But it's up to the Secretary of State to do that, though. C. The Secretary of State may refuse to renew a program participant certification if the adult program participant or the parent or guardian acting on behalf of a minor or incapacitated person has abandoned their domicile in this state. Okay. Anytime I see that phrase, parent or guardian acting on behalf of a minor or incapacitated person or has abandoned their... parent or guardian acting on behalf of... just acting on behalf of a minor or incapacitated person. I'm probably just going to skip over that because that's not going to change. And they refuse to shorten it. If termination is based on any of the reasons under subdivision B or C, the Secretary of State shall send written notification of the intended termination to the program participant. Program participant shall have 30 business days in which to appeal the termination under procedures developed by the Secretary of State. E. The Secretary of State shall notify in writing the county elections official and authorized personnel of the appropriate county clerk's office and the county recording office of the program participant certification withdrawal and validation expiration or termination. F. Upon receipt of this termination notification, authorized personnel shall transmit to the Secretary of State all appropriate administrative records pertaining to the program participant, and the recording transmitting agency is no longer responsible for maintaining the confidentiality of a terminated program participant's record. So for as long as they are actively an active participant, their confidentiality is secured. But the moment they leave that, people are no longer obligated to keep that information hidden. Fine. G. Following the termination program participant certification as a result of paragraph 2 of subdivision B, Secretary of State may disclose information contained in the participant's application. So this one, 62.18.14, basically lays out the parameters for which program participants stop being program participants. And to sum it up, it's mainly on the Secretary of State to determine whether the person has either falsely applied, abandoned the domicile or the address that's on record, falsely applied or abandoned the address that's on record, or failed to renew or put into writing that you are a part of this program. It's up to the Secretary of State of California to determine that these are the things that have happened while you were a program participant. If you either willingly withdrew, found to have lapsed your renewal, put in false info, or have left the address on file, the Sec State can revoke your revoke your participation, basically. And with that is also the revocation of any sort of confidentiality that you had going into the program. This is the big exit clause, basically. 62, 18, 15. I think we're getting to the juicy part. The one that I really was like, oh my god. The one that really tipped off people to thinking that this is going to be that this was in response to Nick Shirley's investigation. I think this is the one. Either this one or the next one. Oh no, it's down the way. It's down the way. So 62, 18, 15. I wish there was names for like what these subsections, like the theme of the subsections. The last subsection, 6218.14 is the revocation of program participants. That's the one. The one before that is how applications get made, and who says how applications get made and who brings them up. Anyway, 15A, a program participant may request that state and local agencies use the address designated by the Secretary of State as the participant's address. When creating a public record, state and local agencies shall accept the address designated by the Secretary of State as a program participant's substitute address, unless the Secretary of State has determined both of the following. 1. The agency has a bona fide statutory or administrative requirement for the use of the address that would otherwise be confidential under this chapter. 2. The address will be used only for those statutory and administrative purposes and shall not be publicly disseminated. You can put in a mailing address, like a PO box, basically. You could set up a PO box with the Secretary of State for your business instead of as public record that it gets sent to state and local agencies for your business. Okay, fine. Setting up if you have like a PO box that people send mail to, all right, that's what this is. That's fine. B, a program participant may request that state and local agencies use the address designated by the Secretary of State as a participant's address. When modifying or maintaining a public record, excluding the record of any birth, fetal death, or marriage registered under Division 102, commencing with Section 102100 of the Health and Safety Code, state and local agencies shall accept the address designated by the Secretary of State as a program participant's substitute address unless the Secretary of State has determined both of the following. Bona fide statutory address only used for those statutory administrative purposes. Okay. C, a program participant may use the address designated by the Secretary of State as the participant's work address. Fine. D, the office of the Secretary of State shall forward all first-class mail and all mail sent by a governmental agency to the appropriate program participants. What? By a governmental agency to the appropriate program participants. Oh, okay. That's fine. God. I'm not used to talking so much. No, yes, I am. The office of the Secretary of State may include in its discretion, refuse to handle or forward packages regardless of size or type of mailing. The standard thing about sending stuff through the mail, basically. E, notwithstanding subdivision A, program participants shall comply with the provisions specified in subdivision D of section 1808.21 of the Vehicle Code if requesting suppression of the records maintained by the Department of Motor Vehicles. Program participants shall also comply with all other provisions of the Vehicle Code relating to providing current address information to the department. Okay, that's basically this subsection is basically how establishment of addresses for these businesses to use as communication between the state and local agencies and stuff and the business, mailing and whatnot. 16 6218.16. A program participant who is otherwise qualified to vote may seek to register and vote in a confidential manner pursuant of Section 2166.5 of the Elections Code. Why is this in here? This one. A program participant who is otherwise qualified to vote may seek to register and vote in a confidential manner pursuant to Section 2166.5 of the Election Code. So, oh, if you're of voting age and you want to vote while you're under a program like this, you can. Go right ahead. In a confidential manner. So if you want to do mail-in ballots while you're under a program like this, you can. Okay, I guess. No, that's not okay. That shouldn't. That answers a really stupid question of, if you're gonna be in a program like this, can I still vote? Or do I have to suspend my voting rights while I am an immigrant, while I'm in this immigration services, while I'm within this immigration service, either as a participant. Oh dear. If you're benefiting from the program, you can still vote. This is the problem of not distinguishing between legal and illegal immigrants, and just by saying immigrants of all kinds. Because if you're undocumented but you're part of this program, you can vote. You can vote otherwise. That's stupid. Okay, 6218.17. A, subsection A, the Secretary of State may not make a program participant's address other than the address designated by the Secretary of State available for inspection or copying, except under any of the following circumstances. 1. If requested by a law enforcement agency, to the law enforcement agency. 2. If directed by a court order, to a person identified in the order. 3. If certification has been terminated pursuant to paragraph 2, subdivision B of 62. Yeah, okay, fine. Certification terminated. Okay, fine. B, the Secretary of State shall designate the state and local agencies of nonprofit agencies and nonprofit agencies that may assist persons applying to be program participants. Any assistance and counseling rendered by the Office of the Secretary of State or its designees to applicants shall in no way be construed as legal advice. Okay, fine. C. The Secretary of State may adopt rules to facilitate the administration of this chapter by state and local agencies. The Secretary of State shall administer this chapter together with and in the same manner as the address confidentiality programs in Chapter 3.1, commencing with Section 6205 in Chapter 3.2, commencing with Section 6215. D. The Secretary of State shall provide each program participant a notice in a clear and conspicuous font that contains all of the following information. Program participant is authorized by law to request to use the participant's address designated by the Secretary of State on real property deeds, change of ownership forms, and deeds of trust when purchasing or selling a home. The program participant may create a revocable living trust and place their real property into the trust to protect their residential street address from disclosure in real property transactions. Wait a second. The Secretary of State shall provide each program participant a notice. Authorized by law to use participant's address. By law to request to use the participant's address designated by the Secretary of State on real property deeds, change of ownership forms, and deeds of trust when purchasing or selling a home. Ugh. The program participant may create a revocable living trust and place their real property into the trust. 3. The program participant may obtain a change of their legal name to protect their anonymity. 4. The list of contact information for entities that the program participant may contact to receive information on or receive legal services for the creation of a trust to hold real property or obtaining a name change, including county bar associations, legal aid, societies, state and local agencies, or other nonprofit organizations that may be able to assist program participants. They can people in this program are basically told by the Secretary of State that you are able to move property around and ownership around. You're still allowed to buy and sell property even if you're under this program, and it'll all be completely confidential for as long as you're within the program. You can still do business. You can still do real estate business while under this program that's funded by taxpayers. At least that's my interpretation of what the fuck I'm reading. Is authorized by law to request. Oh my god. If they're dealing with so if they're part of this program and they buy and sell and they either buy or sell a home or buy or sell a car, they can use the program's address, even if the address leads to fucking nowhere, as legitimate addresses on the official deeds of these places, on the official deeds of the things that they buy, and create trusts from it. They're literally writing into the legislation that they're able to use whatever legitimate business, whatever legitimate immigration service business address while buying or selling homes, property, or cars, vehicles, and shit. On the other hand, this is also to say, this is also allowing the business to buy vehicles. Like, put the vehicles in the name of the HQ of sorts. I'm thinking the worst case. I'm thinking of the worst case scenario of being able to buy, sell. Program participant may obtain a change of their legal name to protect their anonymity. That's so funny. That they may obtain a change of their legal. They can change their name if they really want to, basically. All right, that's fine. I mean, as part of the business, the program participant is the business. Like, this is the business that supposedly does services for immigrants that are allowed to say, I feel that you're threatening me. I'm gonna call the police, basically. Subsection E1. The Secretary of State shall submit to the legislature no later than January 10th of each year a report that includes the total number of applications received for the program established by this chapter. The report shall disclose the number of program participants within each county and shall also describe any allegations of misuse related to election purposes. Okay. The Secretary of State shall commence accepting applications under this program on April 1st, 2027. That'll be next year. Wow. Okay. Secretary of State shall submit to the legislature by July 1st, 2030, a report that includes the total number of pieces of mail forwarded to program participants, the number of program participants during the program's duration, the average length of time a participant remains in the program, and the targeted code changes needed to improve the program's efficiency and cost effectiveness. Wow, those last 4 words are something that California has not done in the time that has been a Democrat supermajority. Wow, program's efficiency and cost effectiveness. Gonna be really cost effective with my fucking tax dollars. Yeah. 621818. Not naming what this is. The theme of this is. Oh. I think this is gonna be this is finally the prohibition part. A person, business, or association shall not publicly post or publicly display on the internet the home address of a program participant who has made a written demand of that person, business, or association to not disclose the home address of the program participant. This is the meat. We've been going through the bill up to this point, and this is the part of the bill that is grabbing the attention that it should be grabbing. Because what the hell am I looking at with a person, business, or association shall not publicly post or publicly display on the internet the home address of a program participant who has made a written demand of that person, business, or association to not disclose the home address of the program participant. Basically, I don't want that guy. I don't want that guy to post my home address on the internet in public. My publicly available on file address. I don't want him to post it. B. A person, business, or association shall not knowingly post the home address of a program participant or the program participant's residing spouse or child on the internet, knowing that person is a program participant and intending to cause an imminent, great bodily harm that is likely to occur or threatening to cause imminent, great bodily harm to that individual. What the fuck are they talking about? What do they mean? What do they mean by this? What do they mean by this? Home address? It doesn't matter about home address? All that would be is we'd be looking at we would be looking at the address of the participants for this program, looking into the real addresses for these places of service. If the places of service happen to be fucking homes or motels or apartments or something like that, that can't be helped. Maybe actually put your place of business at an address that's actually a place of business, not someone's home. Oh, that's the hook. Oh my gosh, that is where the hook is. Oh, dear Lord. A program participant could be a home address, even if that home address is the participants, it is the program participants' address used by the Secretary of State. It's literally a Schrodinger's address. They are legislating a Schrodinger's address in this law, where you as part of your application for this program that is subsidized by the state of California from the general fund, you can input your home address as the address for your business. It is the address that will be used by state and local agencies to confirm that your business is legitimate, alongside a written piece of paper that the Secretary of State will send to you directly to say that this is a legitimate place of business. The Secretary of State does not have to disclose, for as long as you're a participant, the Secretary of State does not have to disclose the address that you are using. So it could be anything. Whatever address is on public file could be fucking anything. It could be your home address. It could be the substitute address. There's no discernment. There's no verification. But the business is on file. And if anybody goes in to check, you can tell them that the address that you see on public file is my home address, is the home address. Even though it's also the address that they use for the business as a participant. And when you go to investigate that business at the address provided, on public record, if you go and it is a home, this law is basically saying that if you feel that you are threatened by the fact that somebody came to investigate the business that is legitimate by the Secretary of State, you can declare that you fear for your safety, that you're being harassed, that you're getting threats. Anybody that comes in to follow them saying, this doesn't feel legitimate, you could say, I don't feel comfortable with this guy. Get him. He's asking too many. I mean, I'm a bit on the nose when I say this, but I don't feel safe with this guy asking me all these questions about my legitimate place of business. I'm helping people out here. This is the Secretary of State saying that I'm helping people out. What else do they need to know? Stop asking me questions. This is a legitimate place of business. This paper says so. In fact, you're here at my home. What are you doing? Get away from my house. But this is a place of business, apparently. It says on public record. Yeah, but it's my home address. It's They literally built into this law a Schrodinger's home address, where your home address could be the place could be the address that you use in the Secretary of State on file for your as a program participant. This is section C. This section shall not apply to an interactive computer service or access software provider as defined in section 230F of Title 47 of the United States Code unless the service or provider intends to abet or cause imminent great bodily harm that is likely to occur or threatens to cause imminent great bodily harm to a program participant. They really said that if somebody comes to visit you, if someone comes to visit you as a result of putting your address online, that is against the law. Someone comes to visit, maybe to ask to enroll in the program or to enroll in whatever care that you're providing as an immigrant. If you feel that they aren't there for the right reasons, you can write them up and report them to the police, and you'd be well within your rights to do so per this law. I really don't like that. 62-18-19. Is this the punishment one? A1. A person, business, or association shall not knowingly publicly post or publicly disclose, or distribute on the internet the personal information or image of any designated immigration support services provider, employee, or volunteer, or other individuals residing at the same home address with the intent to do either of the following. That is the actual anti-Nick Shirley, anti-independent service, independent investigation clause. That's the actual one. A, incite a third person to cause imminent great bodily harm to the designated immigration support services provider. Wow. Employee or volunteer identified in the posting or display, or to a co-resident of that person where the third party is likely to commit this harm. What the fuck? Incite a third person? What are they? Sick 'em. They're committing fraud. Sick 'em. Threaten the designated immigration support services provider, employee, or volunteer identified in the posting or display, or a co-resident of that person in a manner that places the person identified or the co-resident in objectively reasonable fear for their personal safety. Jesus Christ. 2. A designated immigration support services provider, employee, or volunteer whose personal information or image is made public as a result of a violation of paragraph 1, or any individual, entity, or organization authorized to act on their behalf may do either or both of the following. Bring an action seeking injunctive or declarative relief in any court of competent jurisdiction. If a jury or court finds that a violation has occurred, it may grant injunctive or declarative relief and shall award the successful plaintiff court costs and reasonable attorney fees. Or B, bring an action for money damages in any court of competent jurisdiction, in addition to any other legal rights or remedies. If a jury or court finds that a violation has occurred, it shall award damages to that individual in an amount up to maximum of 3 times the actual damages, but in no case less than $4,000. Wow. So if you fear for your life because somebody comes up to your place of business and asks, is this legit? You can say, I feel threatened. Sue this man. And the court will be like, yeah, under this law here, you made the defendant feel you made the plaintiff feel threatened by your presence. We're fining you $4,000 at least $4,000. Brother, this oh my god. I think B1 is the one that I really was like, oh no. A person, business, or association shall not publicly post or publicly display. Oh, also the Icons are images. You can't take pictures of this and you can't make videos. That's literally what Nick Shirley did. That's the anti-Nick Shirley part of the bill, because it's like, so you cannot film these guys. Even though they're on public property, even though they're out in the open, even though they're part of a community and you're in public, it's not a private setting. It's not. You can see it from space. It's not private. You go to any one of these addresses and it's a home address that's also a business address. And you go to film yourself trying to apply for one of these. They say, I feel threatened. Get them out. Suddenly you have a $4,000 minimum misdemeanor charge on your hands. Brother. Anyway, person, business, or association shall not publicly post or publicly display, disclose, or distribute on the internet the personal information or image of a designated immigration support services provider. That is anti-investigative journalism. Employee or volunteer if that individual or any individual, entity, or organization authorized to act on their behalf has made a written demand of that person, business, or association to not disclose the personal information or image. A written demand made under this paragraph shall include a statement declaring that the individual is subject to the protection of this section and describing a reasonable fear for the safety of that. Oh my God. This really is allowing people to say, I don't want this person specifically visiting my place of residence or visiting my place of business. I don't want this guy. So because Nick Shirley exposed fraud, they're literally writing a law that says, Nick Shirley, I declare on my place of business that Nick Shirley cannot visit this place, or else you can arrest him. Oh my God. Any person residing at the individual's home address based on a violation of subdivision A, a demand made under this paragraph shall be effective for 4 years, and you get to keep that essentially restraining order. Like in this law is basically allowing people to create restraining orders on the spot for public entities, businesses to be able to say, businesses and individual people to be able to say, I don't want this person coming anywhere near me. If they're providing immigrant services, immigrant support services. Specifically immigration, by the way. Specifically immigration. So you can't go into and investigate any sort of... you can't do any investigative journalism on your own to where you might be able to uncover the actual truth unless you're a designated entity that is known ahead of time coming to inspect the place. That's the whole program participant and the secretary and being approved by the Secretary of State comes in. You have to be official. You have to be officialized by the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State has to determine solely the Secretary of State determines whether or not your case is legitimate or not. And if it is, all you have to do is just renew the contract every year and you're cool. And if it's not an official investigation, no one else is allowed to look you up. Nobody. No one else. Or else they get slapped with a $4,000 charge and misdemeanor. $4,000 charge. If you mess up anywhere on the application process or provide false info, it's just a misdemeanor though. It's just a misdemeanor. You You made a mistake. It's a misdemeanor. A demand made under this paragraph shall be effective for 4 years. You get to keep that for 4 years. That restraining order is 4 years minimum that can be renewed, by the way, regardless of whether or not the individual's affiliation with a designated immigration support services facility has expired prior to the end of the 4-year period. Wow. It continues even after you lose your, even after your certification has expired. Damn. 2, designated immigration support services provider, employee, or volunteer whose personal information or image is made public as a result of a failure to honor a demand made pursuant to paragraph 1, or any individual, entity, or organization authorized to act on their behalf may bring an action seeking injunctive or declarative relief in any court of competent jurisdiction. If they revive, shall award the successful plaintiff course costs and reasonable attorney fees. What? What? What was the point of this when this was already, like, mentioned earlier? A designated immigration support services provider, employee whose personal information or image is made public as a result of the violation of paragraph 1, or any individual, entity, organization authorized to act on their behalf may do either or both of the following. Designated immigration support services provider, employee whose personal information is made public as a result of a failure to honor a demand is made public as a result of a violation of paragraph 1. Failure to honor a demand made pursuant to paragraph 1. Oh, made public as a result of a failure to honor. They essentially said the same thing twice. Like, you have made public as a result of a failure to honor a demand versus where is it? Versus made public as a result of a violation of paragraph 1. Public as a result of a violation versus failure to honor a demand. I guess one is talking about accidental failure to honor is accidental versus made public, which is purposeful, which is intentional. I guess that's the difference, but whatever, man. Bring an action seeking injunctive declarative relief. Okay. This subdivision does not apply to a person or entity defined in section 1070 of the Evidence Code. Basically, if they're subpoenaed by a court of law, it doesn't matter that these have been made public. So the only way to really get to the bottom, per this law, if this law were to get passed, the only way to really get to the bottom of any fraud is if you actually pull out a suit against them. They're trying to make the legal precedent to do any sort of investigative journalism be an actual, like, lawsuit versus any one of these potential participants. Rather than going up and being, hey, do you exist? Hey, do you actually, like, do what you do? I'd like to enroll somebody in your program. Can you tell me about it? And they say, I don't know what you're doing here. Go away. They're going to outlaw that. They would outlaw that and make such things only possible through a lawsuit. These fucking Dems are slimy shit, man. C1. A person, business, or association shall not solicit, sell, or trade on the internet their personal information or image of a designated immigration support. Okay, that's You're not gonna sell people on. You're not gonna sell people on. Uh, Sell people addresses and shit. Okay, fine. A, inside a third person to cause imminent great bodily harm to the person identified in the posting or display, or to a co-resident of that person, where the third person is likely to commit this harm. Bruh. Basically, you can't get outside people to be like, I'm seeking out this specific, fine. Yeah. Threaten the person identified in the posting or display. Threaten the person identified. Oh, okay. Or a co-resident of that person in a manner that places the person identified or co-resident in objectively reasonable fear for their personal safety. Okay, bruh. 2, a designated immigration support services provider, employee, solicited, sold, or traded in violation of paragraph 1, or any individual, entity, or organization authorized to act on their behalf may bring an action to the court. Oh my god. A designated, solicited, sold. Okay. One is intentional, public. 2, failure, so accidental. This one, 3, traded or sold. Basically, transactioned, exchange. Any other legal rights? Yes. $4,000. Okay. So you can't intentionally share images of the place of residence, of the place of business. You can't accidentally release the images. And you can't make a transaction for those images. Can't do that. Or else you will be awarded for a $4,000 fee for breaking that law. D, an interactive computer service or access software provider. Oh, right. And you can't post this on places like YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, Kick, etc., etc., etc. Oh, I'm sorry. Shall not be liable under this section. So places like Google, YouTube, Twitch are completely hands off from this. If you post this on YouTube, YouTube is not liable for you posting it. But you, the poster, are liable to get hit with a lawsuit for sharing the information, the public information, by the way, of the place of business that you're visiting. If it's an immigration support service provider, or somebody that happens to work at the place, or any one of the residents there, or the neighbors around the place, if there happen to be neighbors. Really encouraging that First Amendment right there here in California. E, does not preclude punishment under any other provision of law. Okay. Can't share images on the internet. Can't share images or videos on the internet of this place. You can't intentionally share them. You can't accidentally share them. Oops, I dropped this here image. My bad. And you can't trade. You can't exchange in a transaction for these services. You can't exchange in a transaction for these pictures, or else you'll be hit with at least a $4,000 fine. Can't be like, I am posting a picture. Can't be like, I'm filming a picture around the area. Oops, there's the place. Damn, well, how could that have happened? And I can't be like, if you have pictures of the place, I'll gladly give you some money for those pictures. If it's found that you've done that, you'll be hit by at least a $4,000 fine. Just to make sure that people don't seek out these places of business and do harm to them. Can't go and bust the place up or be like, I know exactly where you guys reside. I'm going to whatever. You can't do that, which is fine. Other individuals residing at the same home address. Yeah. Violation. Oh, this is 621820. This is it. A1. A person shall not post on the internet with the intent that another person imminently use that information to commit a crime involving violence or a threat of violence against a designated immigration support services provider. Okay, fine. We get it. Don't go busting the place up if you are ever given the information that one of these support services is actually in the area. We all know that. Okay, fine. Don't do any harm to people who happen to be in this area or the place itself. Don't go destroying things within the building or, messing with the people inside the building, volunteers or patients as such. Don't do that. We get that. A violation of the subdivision is punishable by a fine up to $10,000 per violation, imprisonment of either up to 1 year in a county jail or pursuant to subdivision H of section 1170 of the Penal Code, or by both that fine and imprisonment. Oh! Shall not post on the internet with the intent that another person imminently use that information to commit a crime involving violence or a threat of violence against a Here's this place. Go get him. Commit a crime? What crime? The crime of asking people where your business is? Involving violence or threat of... Oh. I feel threatened. I feel like this guy is going to get it. This guy who is asking questions of me is going to incite violence against my place of residence or my business. I feel threatened by that. Hit him with a $10,000 fine. Threat of violence. Fear of personal safety. These are very heavy-handed terms used basically for my place of business is legitimate. You cannot tell me that it is not. And if you do, that's threatening to me. And so I'm going to sue you for it. Or I'm going to find you criminally liable for that. And because you posted it on YouTube, like this whole bill is likely to hit, if it were to go through, it would likely to hit Nick Shirley's video retroactively, because it will continue, because it's one of those videos that will continue to persist after this bill is passed. So they'll be able to flag him for breaking this particular law because they'll either force him to take it down, or if it stays up, they'll be able to find him criminally liable for breaking this law if it were to pass. For threat of violence, whatever that means. Nothing B, violation of the subdivision that leads to the bodily injury of a designated immigration support services provider, employee, volunteer, is a felony punishable by a fine of up to $50,000, imprisonment pursuant to subdivision H, section 1170 Penal Code, or by both. Nothing in this section shall preclude prosecution under any other provision of law. Dear Lord. And that's okay, this is section 621820 is the punishment. This is the punishment section. I wish they would name that, but Dems are not really that good at naming things. Okay, Section 2. The legislature finds and declares that this act imposes a limitation on the public's right of access to the meetings of public bodies or the writings of public officials and agencies within the meaning of Section 3 of Article 1 of the California Constitution. Pursuant to that constitutional provision, the legislature makes the following findings to demonstrate the interest protected by this limitation and the need for protecting that interest. Individuals providing support services to the immigrant community have become increasingly subjected to violent threats, harassment, and intimidation. I feel intimidated because you're asking questions. In order to prevent acts of violence from being committed against those individuals, it is necessary for the legislature to ensure that the home addresses of these individuals are kept confidential. Wow. Really just using a legislature to protect these people who are committing fraud and using my fucking tax dollars to fuel programs that don't do anything and aren't the immigrant community. Give me a break. Just give me a break, bro. Why is California so bad? Why is it? Okay. Basically, they're writing this bill to protect the people that come in and are like, wait a second, are you legitimate? Like, do you actually have like proper legal immigrants here? No? Well, then we need to call ICE. Section 3. No reimbursement is required by this act pursuant to Section 6 of Article 13B of the California Constitution for certain costs that may be incurred by a local agency or school district because, in that regard, this act creates a new crime or infraction, eliminates a crime or infraction, or changes the penalty for a crime or infraction within the meaning of Section 17556 of the Governmental Code, or changes the definition of a crime within the meaning of Section 6 of Article 13B of the California Constitution. However, if the Commission of State Mandates determines that this act contains other costs mandated by the state, reimbursement to local agencies and school districts for those costs shall be made pursuant to Part 7, commencing in Section 17500 of Division 4 of Title 2 of the Governmental Code. And that's it. I don't like this bill, and I hate that all the Democrats in the House Assembly voted on it. Especially this. Actually, no. It's not this. This is the result of what came before, which is, where are you? Shall not knowingly publicly post or publicly display, disclose, or distribute. This one. 1618. Person shall not publicly post or display on the internet the home address of a program participant who has made a written demand of that person. That is giving people license to basically write a restraining order that is not verified by the court. It's not. It's verified by the Secretary of State to say, I don't want this particular person coming in and asking me questions. Keep them out. Keep them out, government. Don't let them near me. That is the anti-investigative journalism portion of this bill. 18, 19, and 20 are the bills, is the part of the bill that basically protects what people are saying they're protecting all of the fraud. It's fucking... I'm speechless for just how far California goes to protect getting ripped off, protect people who are ripping off taxpayers. I'm about to pay my taxes, go ahead and do my taxes and stuff like that. I fucking hate that they're writing legislation to protect people who are taking advantage of the system. Not only that, they're taking advantage of the system and they are enabling them. They're enabling people taking advantage of the system by putting aside money, putting aside a section of the funds that they get from taxpayers in order to run a program that gives them all this power, that allows them to say, I don't want people investigating my place of business. This is all you need. This shit is all you need. What the hell, man? I can't. Okay. I think the last thing we'll look at with this thing is looking at a tweet in regards to looking at a tweet for what Nick Shirley has said and maybe some comments under it as well. Okay, it's that one. Excuse me. California, this is from the Nick Shirley account. California is trying to pass a bill that would criminalize investigative journalism with misdemeanors, $10,000 fines, imprisonment, and content takedown. Yep, that's what I saw as well. The proposed bill is titled AB 2624 and is made after I exposed the mass fraud by immigrant groups in America. The AB 2624, government-funded entities like the Somali Leering daycare centers would be protected from being exposed if they operated inside California. Yes, exactly. Enemy truly is within. When our politicians would rather protect fraudsters and illegal immigrants, it's time for us to stand up or face mass oppression from the traitors who rule over us. It literally just is a violation of the First Amendment by basically giving power to entities, to private, quote unquote, private entities from getting investigated on for any immigration related services. Oh, we are helping out with we're helping out with immigration, with people who are trying to immigrate here, and immigrants and stuff like that. Oh, this is legitimate. The Secretary of State says so. That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter whether or not we're actually doing what we're saying we are doing. It doesn't matter. You can't look into us. We say we're doing it. The state says we're doing it. That's all you need to know. And if you try to ask any more questions, you are threatening us. We will hit you with a lawsuit and we will win because this law in California says that we are allowed to exist. It doesn't matter if we're actually doing this thing that we say that we're doing. All we need is the fact that is the Secretary of State's approval saying that we exist. That's it. And that is something that I noticed within the bill is there's nothing in here that says what the program is actually supposed to do. Only that it is allowed to exist, and anybody that questions that existence will be hit with fine and imprisonment. And content takedown too, if it's shared on the internet for whatever reason. License, frauding, instead of trying to fix this fucking state. A bridge to nowhere that only recently I saw some people inspecting it, but I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that means. Taxes through the roof and the highest gas prices in the country. And yet they're protecting people that are taking advantage of the system and legally setting aside money to allow them to continue doing that. Setting aside a portion of my tax dollars to allow people who are helping immigrants. Don't know whether or not they're actually doing it. Doesn't matter whether or not they're actually doing it, but they're helping immigrants in actually utilizing that money. State subsidized. And they can write an informal complaint, an informal restraining order, essentially. Like the same, not even court order, but it's not a certification or sworn statement. Sworn statement could mean fucking anything. Literally, it could just be, I swear that we are a legitimate business, and California's just gonna go, well, that's great. Go ahead and continue work. That's it. That's good enough for me. Sworn statement? You guys are legitimate? That's fine. We know how much you guys are getting targeted by all of these people that are against immigration. So if you say that you're actually working with immigrants, go ahead and be free. We'll even set aside some money for you to play with. If there are any, people who happen to come across this stream or this video and they see this, they read this freaking and they read this bill. This bill, AB 2624, Privacy for Immigration Support Services Providers. If they see this bill, anybody that happens to come across my stream, my video, and they see this bill, just know that whoever this is, Mia Bonta, and all these other people do not have any Californian that happens to see this bill or see this video. Do not follow this. They're literally protecting fraud in the state of California over trying to fix the problems of the state. I can't believe this, man. I cannot believe this. Help America. No, that's not it. Update. This update. Yes. The legislator who proposed this bill is Mia Bonta, the wife of Attorney General Rob Bonta. The Attorney General of California's wife is trying to silence me and other journalists who are exposing fraud. Are your donors mad they are being exposed? Yeah, fraud in California? What else is new? Anyway, this is a fucking terrible. It's a terrible bill, and it's a bill that is colloquially named the Stop Nick Shirley Act by Carl DeMaio, one of the only Republicans in this entire state in a democratically supermajority state. And he's right, because what the hell is, nowhere in this bill did it ever suggest what the actual terms of this immigration support service provider is supposed to look like, it's supposed to do, is supposed to be. It's just, if you're an immigrant service provider, just come to us to say that you are. We'll keep everything confidential. We'll keep all of your information confidential. It may be public record, but we will we will outlaw people looking into your place of business and place of residence. If it happens to be your home, that's okay. Just make it your base. Just make it. If your business is your home, you can use your home as your place of business, and it will be protected under this law. You can make trusts. You can make, you can make trusts. You can put its name on it. You can do whatever you need to do. We got you. The state of California has your back. The state legislatures have your back. And we'll even set aside money for you to do all that you need to do. Whatever it is that you need to do. It's immigration support services. We're about that. Go ahead. Nothing, absolutely nothing to verify whether or not you're actually doing what you're saying you're doing. Absolutely nothing. But we'll get rid of all of those people that are trying to ask questions. They're trying to get to the bottom of this. Where my tax dollars are going. I have to pay tax dollars for this? This state is stinky, man. This state is really stinky. Anywho, I appreciate you for coming in and watching this particular video of me going over this thing. Please like, subscribe, and follow me for more content as I cover more stuff or play games, whichever one I feel at. But thank you very much for coming in and seeing this stream or this video. This is going to be a separate video and whatnot. And anyway, you have a good one. On to the next thing. There's no King's protest. This is 14 minutes long. James Klug. I have seen a few of his videos of him going on around and talking to people. You know, there are other content creators like him. That's how Nick Shirley got started. That's where Nick Oliveira got started and stuff. You know, anywhere between independent journalists to independent reporters, essentially. You know, not Caroline Levitt, but that one woman who goes around and one woman who goes around to places of protests and talks to people there. You know, these people go on, you know, the street reporters. James Klug is another one of those street reporters. This time he has a guy, John, what's his name? Oh, John Doyle. Also seen him around as well. Another one of those conservatives, and this is going to be a video of him going around and talking to people. I think in this case, it's No King's protesters rage quit after being fact checked. Always love seeing one of these because it's funny watching people have reality thrown in their faces and they can't handle it. Go and sub to this man, and we shall watch a video. You know, we are react slopping and shit like that. So, but I wanted to see this because this always gives me a laugh, and it's some of the things that I watch while I'm on my off time and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna bring it on stream and we'll talk about it. You know, fair use and all that. So let's do it.
We are talking to No King's protesters. This guy right here.
Oh, I should probably put on to prevent a double from happening. Should put on. All right.
Voted for Donald Trump. I want your thoughts on that. Maybe a quick. What was it?
But why?
Love the start of this video for these ladies here. Old, by the way. Take note, these are old white ladies. Many such cases. Old white ladies who are protesting Trump. You know, they say, boo Trump.
But like, seriously, why?
This guy.
I want a sovereign country, and I was very concerned to see what was going on at the southern border during the Biden administration, so I wanted somebody to come in.
And what was going on?
The worst border crisis in American history.
That's right.
Actually,
Correct.
it was not. If you go
By
to
all available data.
No, not all available data. If you actually go online, and I just talked to somebody who
They want to say, they say with all, James says, you know, with all available data, and this lady says not with all available data, but you go to the internet, which is where all of the available data is. Lovely.
voted for Trump because of that, and y'all stop making fun of me.
Oh no,
We're not.
aren't they
They're
on your
not.
side?
You would
We're
think.
not. We
One
said
would
that
think.
you asked the right person.
Oh, if you look for and Google this, unbiased records of border activity given each president per term for the last so many terms, you will find that Biden dismissed more people from the country than Trump did in his first.
We had open borders. What dismissal? Unless it's dismissing right into our country and not putting it on record because, well, we're catching them and then releasing them into our country. We're dismissing them from our catching them in order to see them later. Border naturally resulted in more returns, expedited removals at the border, not to be confused with interior removals. It's a totally absurd argument. Yes. More returns and expedited. Yeah, exactly. Those are the numbers that were propped up. It's the, well, we technically can't let you in, but if you try again, we won't, see anything, we'll say.
So there you go.
Interior
Unfortunately, the problem with that is that they changed the definition of deportation, for example, to include people literally turned away at the border. So that, I think, does exaggerate those numbers a little bit. In terms of people actually entering into the country, it was, what, 10 million people just under that first 4-year Biden term? I mean, I guess only 4-year Biden term, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, you had 10 million people flood into the country. I think that's certainly the biggest that we've seen at the southern border. And so I did not like to see that. And I'm happy to see
accurate.
now.
Turning people away isn't deportation. That's not deportation. That's just refusing entry. Refusing entry. Deportation is actually taking somebody that is inside the country and taking them out of the country. Kicking them out. Kick. Ugh. Go away. Shoot. Turning them away isn't deportation. And those are the numbers that they used for Obama's term, Biden's term, and for Bush's term as well. A lot of Bush's deportations came out to be that way as well. Even though, well, Obama did that, but also he was the deporter in chief. He deported more people than Trump. Trump should be deporting much more people than Obama ever did, but he's not. So there's that.
Well, I'm happy to see now that not only do we have a completely secure border where you have like net zero crossings, you also now have deportations happening where these people are being sent back, and so
Correct. So you got that too.
Murders.
You can count, yes,
that sounds
murders.
horrible. Where's that happening?
Alex Preddy, Nicole.
Alex Preddy and Renee Good are not immigrants. They are stupid citizens that were messing with federal officers in official legal investigations and got shot for it because they ran a fucking car into an officer, B, had the unfortunate accident of having a gun go off, likely not from anything that Alex Preddy did, but it wasn't helped by the fact that he was resisting. We don't have to go into that, but man, I really don't like it when these people come up with those two figures as a result, because they've been told that resisting police officers is a noble thing, even when they're doing correct in their job.
Good. There are tons of them, so you can add those to your accounts too.
She was the one who tried to run over the ICE agent.
She did absolutely not. I'm sure you didn't see the
Yeah.
video.
Well, I
That
think
is
we saw
why.
the same video actually.
I think you didn't see the same video.
Where she struck the agent with her car. Did she
day.
strike the agent with her car? Because that's what I saw in the video. Okay.
Is
He
Trump
was
an
holding on
authoritarian
to
to where
his
we
car.
can't even drive over federal agents anymore?
I know, right?
Is this the America we're living
He
in?
did not drive over
We
a
did not
federal
drive over
agent.
a federal agent.
He
No,
just
no, I said we, as in like the American people.
yeah, the American
was just
people did
driving
not
her
drive
car
over a
away.
federal agent.
She was only driving her car away. You
And
know?
she had just said, "I've
Was
got
there an
nothing
agent
against you."
in front of her vehicle or
No,
no?
he was
way
off to the
side
side.
That's why the bullet went through the front of the car rather than the side.
I have no idea about the bullet. But I
Well,
can't
clearly
tell
not.
You what I
It went
want,
through
though.
the windshield, meaning she was literally running over him,
Yeah.
put a shot off, and then
Hey, guys,
something
really
bad
quick.
happened.
Really quick, I'm so curious. If we zoom out,
Exactly. It went through the windshield, not the driver's side door, not the driver's side glass window. If it went through the windshield, the guy had needed to have been in front. Otherwise, how the hell did the bullet go through the windshield and not the driver's side window? If he was on the side and not getting hit by a fucking car. I don't need to crash. I do not need to act out. Let's just keep listening.
really quick, because you can grab something you don't like. Oh, there's a police shooting. Are you going to say abolish the police? No, that'd be a little bit crazy. Let's zoom out really quick and talk about the enforcement aspect of immigration. Are you guys for that? And is that a fair question? I mean, that seems kind of fair.
I was distracted. I'm sorry. For what?
Yeah, you guys are
Of course she was distracted.
having a good time. No, hey, we're having a good time too.
Of course she was
are you guys
distracted.
Are you guys for that when it comes to immigration enforcement, just in a general sense? I want to see kind of where
Sorry,
you're at.
I kind
wanna
of
see if
turned
we
my
can find
brain
some
off
common ground
because, like,
Sure.
here.
I-
it really grinds my gears when I hear stuff like that.
Him for some levels of absolutely.
Only some? What kind of enforcement are you even for if it's only some? Can you
I
explain?
am for some levels of security at the border and security
Just
of
some?
other people, places. We shouldn't be allowing people, for instance, with criminal records in.
Hmm.
That I
Damn! How are you gonna check for that without secure borders?
agree with. If you commit a crime in this country and you're not a citizen, you go. I agree with. But there are so
Damn! Almost like Trump saying the worst of the worst has gotta go out is a part of that. Who could have thought? Holy shit. She and I have the same thoughts on that. I'm glad we agree.
many people who are coming here.
But I want it fully,
probably our
not some.
grandparents. My mother came from Canada, from England to Canada to here to get to the United States, and nobody had a problem with that then. Although I'd take that back.
I'm sorry, when are you
because-
talking about that?
I'm sorry.
When
why?
did she come?
When she was a child.
her family.
What
Her
year?
family
Are we
came
talking about like
from-
Ellis? No, oh,
No.
she's from Canada. Sorry,
Yeah.
not Ellis.
Yeah.
Okay, so what year roughly do you think?
30s, early 30s.
Right.
Yeah. But like,
I mean,
all of us
immigration's
came
much
from
different today compared to
somewhere.
then, right?
Yeah.
30s.
I don't
Do
know,
you think
in
that
what
there are
ways?
like cultural
Welfare.
differences that may matter? Like Canada, different parts of Europe, America even, all is like an outgrowth of Western civilization versus importing people by the millions from, say, Africa, South America, South Asia. Do you think that there might be more cultural differences between those countries in America than England in America, or
I'd like
Canada
to
in
think so.
America?
There might
I
be
would
some
think
what?
so.
Cultural differences.
Cultural differences, yes, and I welcome them. I welcome them.
like,
Are you
Cultural
afraid
distances.
of people in America?
In America?
Somalia,
Yeah,
Haiti,
yeah,
You
those
are
places.
afraid of
Yeah.
people coming to America.
Yeah, they make the country
Okay,
worse
well
off.
then you and I we're opposites.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know that.
So I don't know what we have common ground here.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's going to be a U.S.-Iran nuclear deal or no?
the nuclear deal.
Yeah, do you think so?
No.
Why do you say no?
I don't think either.
Interesting that we've switched to a different part of the video is now the Iran nuclear deal, but you know that's the video that we're watching this time around, so that's fine.
Side is going to just come to terms. They haven't historically. I don't see that changing.
If you had $100 to put on that, would you put $100 on that?
Yes.
The reason why we're
On
talking
the U.S.-Iran nuclear deal, I mean there was one, but it was one where we gave a bunch of money to Iran to say, you don't do any. We will pay you not to do any nuclear enrichment, please. We will pay you not to do that. That was what that Iran nuclear deal was. I'm pretty sure that Iran nuclear deal at this point would involve a complete dismantling of their nuclear program to make sure that they aren't building some fucking bombs.
about this today. We have Call Sheet right here, basically tracking sentiment, and they're showing not much, 33% chance before.
Wait, is this an ad?
Of there being a U.S.-Iran nuclear deal. Seems like most people agree with you. How do you feel about that?
I think it'll settle down over time, but I think.
Oh, okay, that was. Whatever. Okay.
Let's say a culture that believes in
And
beating.
you don't think the Americans
beating
negatively
women for taking
impact
off headscarves.
the Native Americans who lived here? You don't think that the guys who came over on ships?
It was like
They didn't. The people who came over on ships were Protestant Christians that were escaping persecution from England. Also, the Native Americans weren't beaten for their headscarves. They tried to fight the. They tried to fight the settlers, tried to fight the colonialists for their land. They were not nice, despite what the first Thanksgiving was all about. They were not nice. I believe talks had broken down, and the settlers here had to fight them off. And they did, and they won. Kind of nothing you can do about that when you lose a show of force, when you lose a duel of force. So no, and we didn't beat them up. They just died. They ceased to exist because they could not handle the diseases that we brought over, or the technology that we used against them when they tried to fight us for coming onto their land. But we certainly didn't persecute them when they were here, when they were
land, and they
around.
developed it, and they created the most powerful country on the face of the earth.
Correct. We would not have America if those settlers didn't fight off the Native Americans. We would not have an America. We would not have the United States of America without those people. And yet we do not persecute people who don't think like us. Not yet, anyway.
There were Native Americans, Indians living here, and you don't
That tried to fight us and kick us off the land. And we said no.
think all those Europeans came in and slaughtered them?
Yeah. So immigration
Stop
today.
them from slaughtering each other too. Did them a little favor there, I guess.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. When they weren't fighting the white man, they were fighting each other and being pretty barbaric and doing everything that they say that the U.S. was doing. Say that the settlers were doing to the American Indians. They were doing to each other already. I remember that in a history book while I was growing up. Not sure why suddenly that is seen as a bad thing or not having happened.
Sacrificing.
That's true. It's just objectively
I'm done
true.
with this.
No.
You're getting
Wait. Really, I wanted one more question for you. All right. No.
They always leave.
But you don't think certain cultures can negatively impact the United States when it comes to mass migration?
I think Americans can negatively impact this country, which they are.
Would you take 1 million MAGA or 1 million people from Somalia or Haiti?
I would probably take Somalia or Haiti.
Suicidal empathy, everybody. Yes. Also, notice the
Most
lady in the
profound things you
back.
said. We have nothing in common.
No, notice the
Absolutely
lady
true.
in the back that was recording.
The Haitian people. Say what you will. They're vibrant. They know governance.
The lifeline of the United States will be mass importation of people in Haiti.
Yes.
That is it.
True. Conan O'Brien told me.
My man, tell me about your shirt right here.
I think it's accurate.
Yeah.
It's accurate.
I think you can find policies from every one of those groups that are exactly the same.
Right. And then
But they'll never actually speak on what those policies may be. Unless it's something that Trump has already done, that Democrats have also already done in the past. But they'll never make that correlation.
can't bomb your way out of the Epstein files. That one's pretty self-explanatory. When it comes down to this, you guys, this right here, what do you think is the similarity there? When it comes to MAGA, you have the...
I'd certainly like to know, because so far I haven't seen any lynchings. I don't know if that's a YouTube-friendly word, but I said it, so whatever. Yeah, I said it, so it's okay for me to say it. I have that right. But, yeah, I'd like to know, too. I'd like to know the similarities.
SS hats. What's the similarity there in your view?
Lewis Sinclair wrote a book called It Can't Happen Here, and they had the brown shirts, which kind of equate to ICE. They had somebody that got...
Customs and Border Patrol don't wear brown. It's not brown, it's green. It's a very dirty green,
no
but it's
checks
still
or balances whatsoever. They were just allowed to do whatever they wanted. And it was a...
That same amount of freedom of doing whatever they wanted was praised by Democrats during the Obama administration when they were doing the same thing. In fact, more so during the Obama administration. But nobody remembers the camps. Nobody remembers the cages. Where was it then?
Yes, Charles. It was ended up being Charles Lindbergh. Granted, fantasy book,
it was fantasy book. Okay.
There's a lot of repression. There's a lot of
Are you tongue-tied?
Sorry, got me
sir.
bad time.
You're okay. So, do you guys all draw that
Tongue-tied,
comparison
tongue-twisted.
between ICE and SS, or no?
I personally think a lot of people that are proud to wear this hat are doing it because they don't like immigrants, and it's an excuse
like
for
immigrants.
them to get out their feelings that they maybe wouldn't normally, express. Yeah, and it gives them a reason. And that's,
But you're not going as far as the Nazi uniform comparison? This is your friend.
yeah, I know. I think there's a lot of similarities, and I would be fine wearing that shirt.
You would be?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys, when it comes down to the immigration enforcement, though, right? You mentioned immigrants. Maybe illegal immigrants. We'll draw the distinction
I
for the
got the cooler
conversation.
black and
But
gold
if
hat,
you have a group that
yeah.
enforces immigration law, whether you think they're aggressive or not, comparing that to not enforcing immigration law, but actually taking people that are there legally and sending them to camps for forced labor and execution,
Yeah.
you think there's something similar there?
There is.
And what is it?
Because they are taking these people these people, a lot of them are here legally, and
But they're undocumented, which means that they don't have the means to show that they're actually here illegally. So, are they really legal? That's not a question that they seem to want to answer.
they're
Illegally, you said?
No, legally. Like they are going to their hearings because they have a hearing.
But they don't have the documents here with them on hand. So they're not legal.
Set. They're here legally.
Right.
And they're taking them and deporting them without any,
But they're
without
not-
them being able to contact their loved ones. Like they're being whisked away to places that are basically like concentration camps because
But
if
they're
you
they're
research
leaving the
any of
country
them,
soon after. So
especially
where's
some
the
of them in
concentration?
Florida, and probably in South Texas, they're very, poorly.
Are they doing forced labor, though? Are they
No,
exterminating
they're not
them?
forced labor. They just don't
Oh,
have
whoa,
good
whoa, whoa,
living
whoa. I thought they
conditions.
were- I
They're,
thought they were-
all crushed
I thought-
together, hundreds in one room.
I thought they had some forced
They
labor
don't
in
get
those
to talk
camps.
to lawyers. They don't get
toothbrushes
activist
and
groups that have
toothpaste,
never said
just
anything
stuff like
positive
that.
about
So
deportation.
I hear what you're saying there, but when it comes down to it, you guys, I mean, these are detention facilities. This is where people, this is the immigration process. And when you talk about people getting swept up at a court, right, that is, okay, well, if it's dismissed or rejected, the asylum, which overwhelming majority are economic asylees, they're disqualified for asylum. If they get rejected, ICE takes them and they deport them from there.
Yeah.
That is legal.
Exactly.
That would be
So
legal.
why would we compare that to Nazis?
Because, like I said,
Like, what's wrong with that? If they're not allowed to be here, they're not allowed to be here, right?
Legally,
Well, what is illegal about that?
it's illegal that they're taking people who were here. Like I said, they're taking people who were here, going to their hearings to do a legal
But
process.
if they're
and
going to
deporting
their
them.
hearings, but they're
rejected or
not
dismissed, they're allowed to
legal,
deport
then
them.
They're taking them
They're
immediately
not-
without them letting them have their say.
There's a couple things there, right? It could be
They-
rejected or
they-
dismissed,
they-
or they qualify for expedited removal, therefore they don't get that level of due process in the United States.
But it's still
So
due
it's
process
a little bit
because
complicated of a conversation, but,
they
but
they
is
a
this not just
judge was
immigration
like,
enforcement?
oh
Like, what should the
yeah,
punishment be
we
for entering
reviewed
the country
this
without
and they
permission,
need
for
to
example?
leave, so we're
shooting
just
an
gonna
American
like,
citizen.
okay, yeah, they need to leave.
Shooting like
Get
for a
them
police
out.
officer?
For an immigration officer that in no way, form, or fashion was in danger of their life. What should the punishment be for
Which one are
murdering
you-
an American
What are you
citizen?
talking about?
Yeah, what?
Freddie?
Of course,
I
Freddie.
mean, I would say that what should well, if it gets investigated and he's found guilty, then you should go to jail. But honestly, probably unlikely when you're.
That it's ever going to get investigated? Yes, you're correct.
You know, they'll
no,
probably-
no.
Now, it got investigated, but it, just like the Renee Good shooting, it was investigated, but it was found that he did his job. A lady hit him with a car, and he defended himself. Unfortunately, it resulted in loss of life. It's not really, can't really, no two ways about it, really.
Not with Pam Bondi's DOJ.
Yeah,
Pam
Never
Bondi
investigated.
left.
And even
She's
if he
gone.
does
When it comes to-
get-
when
even
it comes
if he
to
does
concealed
get
carry
investigated,
classes-
Trump will pardon him.
When it comes to concealed carry classes, the number one thing that pretty much the entire class is teaching you not to do what Preddy was doing, which is
Yeah, exactly.
literally wrestling with an officer.
I don't know
or putting
why
yourself in
you
a bad
would
situation
wanna
like that.
wrestle an officer
I
in the
understand.
first
It's a
place.
bummer. I get it. But
Yeah,
but
it's true. Nobody says that what happened to Alex Preddy was a triumph. It was tragic. It is awful. It sucks that life was lost. That is what happens, though, when you mess with and resist officers like he was. I had a moment where I was being investigated falsely by officers. They put me in handcuffs, but I complied, and nothing happened. I told the truth, and nothing happened. Everybody else was mad for me. I was flattered that people were coming to my defense, but I knew that nothing was going to happen because I didn't do anything. But I complied. At the very least, I complied. I was just like, oh, shit. Well, this is happening, I guess. But I'm innocent, and I have no reason. That's the big thing, is I had no reason to ever resist. Because the system, as it's intended, will let me go free. Because there's nothing in the system. There's nothing for the system to find me guilty of. I would need to resist in the first place. Or B, that I would be found liable for having committed any sort of crime. Because I didn't. But I'm not going to resist and say, oh, I didn't resist and say that the officers were holding me unjustly or unfairly. It's their observation. It's their investigation. I was in the system, supposedly. Not really, though. I wasn't actually in the system, and they checked and double checked and triple checked, and they found that I'm not actually the guy that they were looking for. It was fine. It was okay. That's not what Alex Preddy did. He resisted the entire time. He was like, oh God, get off me, get off her. And unfortunately, a gun went off and the officers were jumpy because this guy was just resisting the whole time, and he could have had another weapon. It's really unfortunate. Nobody is denying that. But god damn it. Sit the fuck down and just let them arrest you. You gotta do what the civil rights leaders did, Martin Luther King and stuff, and just allow themselves to be arrested. But you gotta comply with police. You've gotta comply. Fight them in the courts if you have to, but you gotta comply.
You're not. It's also a bad idea, and mistakes and bad things happen
Exactly.
when you wrestle with federal officers holding a firearm.
He was trying to help up a woman.
That was also resisting arrest. That was also getting in the way of official investigation.
I'm pretty sure you didn't see the same video I did.
No, I don't think so.
He didn't touch that officer.
What are you talking about?
He didn't
Yeah,
touch
you
that
showed
officer. No, he didn't.
You want to pull up
Yes,
the video?
he did.
Do it.
I didn't.
He didn't pull out his gun. His gun was taken from
You
him.
guys, I'm saying it's a bad idea to wrestle with off. Can we all agree on this? And then we can.
All he was doing was trying to help a woman stand up, and the
He was with
officer
ICE
attacked
Watch,
him.
so they were obstructing ICE operations. That's what they were both doing there. And he had been doing that the week prior when he was kicking out a vehicle's taillight, which is also, by the way, he should have actually had his concealed carry taken away by law because you can't assault federal officers while carrying a gun. Huh?
What about everybody that was at January?
They always bring back January 6th. January 6th hasn't happened in 5 years. But this obstruction of officers keeps happening. You keep having No Kings protests follow these ICE agents around. You keep having these protesters following ICE agents around. But January 6th, big bad January 6th, is a moment in time that only happened once. But that's not a conversation that people want to have. You talk about the sequence of behavior, the pattern of behavior, but they don't tell you to follow the pattern.
Kicking in the windows and breaking in there. So it's a two-way street.
No. If somebody,
Whoa.
you're writing an argument that I didn't say, and then you're answering it.
Because you referenced his shirt to immigration and ICE, and that's not what his shirt is referencing. The shirt says nothing about immigration.
Same. He was the one that I asked him, and he brought that up. That wasn't me.
I didn't bring up him. I brought up ICE officers as an equivalent to the.
If you bring up ICE, you bring up immigration by proxy. So, what are you talking about?
Brown shirts in a book.
Right. Okay. Well, you want to get back to that?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
What should the punishment be for entering the United States illegally? What should the punishment be?
It should be a ticket.
It should
A
be
ticket?
Yeah,
A
it's not
ticket.
even
It's a
not
civil
even-
fine.
It's a civil crime.
It's a
not
misdemeanor.
federal.
Civil, it starts off civil. That's the thing that they don't talk about, is that that they won't ever acknowledge that it starts off civil. For a first offense, it's civil. But if you keep going, keep doing it, which is the case with a lot of these deportations, like a lot of them. If you keep going, it goes from civil to criminal. It elevates, it evolves into a criminal case. It starts off civil, but a lot of these cases, in fact, many of these cases, turn out to be criminal because the statute of being a civil case has expired and they didn't leave, or they got that civil form saying, hey, you didn't renew, so now you have an order of deportation. And if you don't abide by that, that goes from that was awarded via a civil court to find you liable for to find you eligible for deportation. It goes from a civil court to a criminal one if you don't abide by that. You are now breaking the law, which is a crime. So it starts off civil, But as with a lot of these cases, as they continue to keep coming out, it goes from civil to criminal. But they'll never talk about that.
Crime. It's a civil
A misdemeanor is criminal.
It's not a crime.
Misdemeanor is literally a crime.
It's a civil fine.
A misdemeanor is a crime. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, they walk
away.
It's
below a felony and it's above an infraction. Thank you.
Well, that was the video. This is a very dusty hat, so I probably put a whole bunch of organisms in my hair for doing that, but I wanted to make a point. Anywho, that was that video, and basically just talking about watching leftists get really frustrated that they get hit by actual facts that they'll never acknowledge because they only ever think about one thing and are told to think about one thing, which is be anti-Trump, be anti-establishment, be police or borders and stuff like that, and told that Alex Preddy and Renee Good can do no wrong. They did no wrong. They lost their lives unjustly, even though they were fighting police officers, which you should not do. It's wild. But I think I'm going to... That was 2 hours and 45 minutes of me going over how California is shitty, and while the John Doyle and John Klug thing is not really well, it's not really James Klug. Well, that's not California. The bill is. And the bill well, I'm going to leave it at this. That was a good video. I am so glad that anybody that comes across this video enjoyed their time. I just gave my general thoughts on it, my general commentary. It's React slop, but it was fun to watch people. It was fun to get some of this stuff off of my chest. I'm going to leave it for now. We'll come back at a different time to either play some games or I think later on in the week, I believe on Friday at around 6 o'clock. I'll make it 6 o'clock. I'll go over, or whenever the translations come on, I will go over the new One Piece chapter that comes out this week, because there was a break. There was a break last week. I think tomorrow, before the chapter comes out, I will do a prediction stream of what may happen in the newest chapter before the actual chapter drops. I appreciate anybody that comes through here to see my video, see this VOD, to have seen the stream, to see this video. Have a wonderful day. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever. Do the YouTube actions, whatever. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I will see you guys on a different one. You have a great day, night, morning. Have a great time.